Hey, it's New Thought Talk. I'm your host, the Reverend Steve Walling from the Spiritual Awareness Center in Fresno, California. Hope to see you sometime on Sunday. We meet up on 1470 North Van Ness. Meditation time is at 10, and our lesson starts at 10:30. Glad you're with us today. You know, I look forward to coming here and sharing and doing these shows because it's amazing how much of what we have learned over the years in this New Thought Christianity, or New Thought, whatever you want to call it, spirituality, has made its way from our belief system into society as a whole. When New Thought was young, at the turn of the 19th to the 20th century, the idea of having a positive mindset and creating a positive life experience was really unheard of. Self-belief, believing in yourself, and seeing that belief played out, demonstrated in your life, was not a common thought. You had early teachers that some of them wrote. There was a comic book called based on Horatio Algiers, I believe it was. It was about a young man who overcame odds, and he did it with a sense of inner belief, confidence, and consciousness. But over the years, little by little, through authors like Napoleon Hill and Neil Donald Walsh more recently, and various other people in between, The Power of Positive Thinking, W. Clement Stones. I can go on. There's many people that have brought these principles into the mainstream community, if you will, and you have teachers like Tony Robbins today and many others that teach New Thought principles, but they don't necessarily teach them as a spiritual life practice, but they do teach them as a life practice. And that's the most important aspect of what we talk about. You know, I don't believe that spirituality is a noun. I believe spirituality is a verb. And what I mean by that, it's not what we think in our mind when we come to a Sunday meeting or whatever, but it's how we live our moment-to-moment, day-to-day life experience, and the thoughts that we choose to hold in mind. Because the thoughts that we hold in mind, whether we choose them or not, play a powerful role in how we experience each and every day. You know, some people go through life and they see the river of life as an adventure, and it brings opportunity, and it brings many different things. And sometimes it brings rapids and obstacles, but they see them as obstacles and not as problems that will defeat them, but obstacles that can be overcome. And they believe that they have it within themselves to reach within and find that source of what we believe is all power that will come forth in some way and demonstrate in their life. But there's other people that see the river of life as a moat, and that moat surrounds their story, their self-story. And they live in the protection of that story because that story gives vindication to where they're at in life today. You know, I'm here and I've been unable to do and to be whatever I want because, and they'll tell you, they'll share their story with you. And it's really tragic because just beyond that moat is where that river of adventure is, that river of adventure that is ready, willing, and able and accepting of each and every person that makes the choice to begin that particular journey. But it means you got to leave the moat behind. It means you got to let your story go. And so as we come into today, I didn't really create a formal format for today. I wanted to talk to us about our story and about making different choices, because as you go through your life today, the choices that you made, starting from the time you opened your eyes in the morning, affects your entire day. And as the day goes on, let's say your day starts in a rather unhappy way. The day starts such that you begin to experience some obstacles, if you will, what you might call problems. And you let your mind dwell on these and oh, how could I get in this and how did this happen or why me and life isn't fair. And the next thing you know, we're rehashing some aspect of our story and I just never can seem to overcome. And, I had limitation this, there, and whatever in my life. And boy, I can never get ahead. And that becomes a continuation of our story. But when we stop and we recognize that that's what we're doing, we can also in that moment, we can make a decision and we can make a choice, and you can make that choice. And the choice is first the recognition that today is not a continuing chapter of our old story. We can close that chapter, and today can be a new chapter in our life. We can turn that page and we can begin to move forward, to seek out greater goods, to realize that life is not against us, but everything that happens in our life is coming at us in such a way that there's something for us to be learned from it. There's strength that can be had from overcoming. There's lessons that can be learned from overcoming. But we have to stop and pay attention and realize that strength can be had and the lessons are there. That is just like a weightlifter, as we begin to work against the resistance that in some of the things we have, we strengthen our inner muscles of faith and confidence and belief. And as we overcome them, we build our confidence. We also build an understanding that life can be for us and not something that happens to us. How many of us believe that life happens to us? But there's many others that are learning today to believe that life happens for us and all that it is. It takes a shift in consciousness, a shift in how we look at things, a shift in how we perceive things. If we perceive things as always coming at us and we're a victim, then life is always happening to us. But if we see a shift and realize that there is an infinite power and an infinite present for good in the universe that is ever available, that is demonstrating in us as our life in each and every moment, and is also a source of all of our good, that life doesn't happen to us, but life happens, and we can begin to choose how we experience what it is that life happens. We can begin to see that there's nothing that's going to happen to us that can't be overcome or that we haven't overcome because we're here today. We've overcome everything that we've had in our life. That doesn't mean that we're not going to have sorrows. It doesn't mean that we're not going to have to strain a little bit. Everybody, as they're growing, they strain, they fall. But the thing is, we know we can get up and we can move forward. We know that we can learn. We know that there are places in our hearts that we can touch, and maybe if something passes out of our life, whether it be someone that we love or an experience of something we had, that was special in that moment, but there's more of those moments ahead for us, more of those moments that contain good, more of those moments that contain a wonderfulness for those that are willing to look and seek out that wonderfulness, a goodness for those that are willing to accept that there's good in everything that happens. And that may be a big bite for a lot of people to take, to realize that there's good to be found in all that happens. And we can all register within our immediate thinking various what we'd call terrible things that have happened. How do we see good in those things? Well, depending on what it is and where we're at, we can find that good if we know that we can find that good. And one of the most darkest times of somewhat recent history, during the time of the World War II and the Holocaust and all that stuff, there was a man by the name of Viktor Frankl, and he was actually being experimented on. He was a doctor, a psychiatrist, and during the time that these people were doing terrible things to him, he had a moment of clarity when he began to realize the power that existed within him, and he took that and he survived the camps and he survived the war, and he wrote a book that has charged and invigorated people throughout the world to transcend their darkest times. I believe the title of the book is called Man's Search for Meaning, and it's still available. And if you haven't read it, I highly recommend that you read it. And if you aren't into reading, you can go online and you can find quotes from it. You can find out about this man, Viktor Frankl, and the good that he brought to the world. And that's just one instance. There's the stories that came out from that time of human kindness and human good really was profound. But if we don't bother to look for it, we fail to see it, and all we see is the tragedy. So we can learn from the good, and we can learn from the tragedy so that we don't see that replay in our lives. So I'm going to take our first break, and when we come back, we're going to kind of pick up this idea of how we can create and make a better life for ourselves in the moment of today. I'll see you when we come back.
The Narrow Gauge Inn is your home away from home, with 26 rooms offering majestic mountain views, private decks, and an atmosphere of true relaxation. Located just 4 miles from the south entrance to Yosemite National Park, the Narrow Gauge Inn is the perfect base for all your Yosemite adventures. Make your reservation now at narrowgaugeinn.com or call 559-683-7720.
We've been thinking about this for a while on how we can really match up economic development and workforce development.
In order to have successful businesses, the businesses needed a successful workforce. And so the EDC and the DSS partnered together to put together training programs that are tailored to specific industries.
We need to have our clients be private sector focused, private sector ready, and better to learn that from the private sector than from the government.
This was a different idea, and this intrigued me. I've got 3 guys out in the field working, no problem at all with them, very good kids. I enjoy hiring people that need a second chance. The employees that work for us are our most important asset. That's why I have to have good employees. We need to all work together and try to figure out on how to do this, and that's why I like the program.
Come out this Saturday at 11 a.m. at Home Fundings Corporation's free home buying workshop, located at 191 West Shaw Avenue, Suite 204 in Fresno, California. Seats are limited, so call now and reserve your seat. Call 559-418-0794. Again, the number is 559-418-0794.
The Saga of Bridget and Amanda by Carol Love Forbes brings to life the struggles of historical women in early America. Find The Saga of Bridget and Amanda on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and order your copy today. When you need a realtor, call Alice Brown Harris with Guarantee Real Estate. Call 626-893-7663.
CentralValleyTalk.com.
Well, welcome back to New Thought Talk. I am your host, the Reverend Steve Walling. Anyway, I want to open this segment with a quote from Oscar Wilde. He said, "To live is the rarest of things in this world. Most people exist, and that is all." A rather tragic statement, but also rather true. You know, we can create our life, or we can exist in life. And to live, to really live, is one of the most wonderful things that we can all do, that in a sense we've been gifted by the divine principle to do, but it's up to us to wake up to that, to realize that, and then to put this principle into practice in our lives. As a matter of fact, there are universal truths and principles, I believe, that when discovered, we can use. But the important thing is we have to use them. We can believe that it's done unto us as we believe, and we can act on it. Or we can say it's done unto us as we believe and just exist and fail to act upon it. But think about it. If it's done unto us as we believe, what kind of panorama, what kind of doors does that open for us? You know, it's essentially, on some level, it's infinite. If you can believe it, really believe it, you can achieve it. In anything that you believe that you can do, if you truly believe you can do it, you may be the first to do it, but it can be done. And that was a promise that was given thousands of years ago to humanity. And it's a promise that still is valid today. If you can believe it, you can achieve it. You hear, you know, in the first segment, I talked about how so many of our beliefs in New Thought have found their way into the what I'll call the regular world, or the real world. And belief and seeing your belief demonstrate in your life is one of those things. But imagine living your life. Imagine for just a moment living your life on a level of consciousness where you become a co-creator of your life experience. it can happen, and you can do it if you believe it. You know, there's many things that we experience in life that we would rather not, and we get that, like I spoke in the last segment, we do get the impression that life's not fair, or life is tough, or life is working against us. But none of that's true. Life just is. It's not fair. It's not fair. Our experience of life, how we experience our life, which becomes our life experience, is solely determined by how we are believing in the moment that we experience whatever it is we experience. Two people can experience the same thing, the same event, and one will come away thinking it's absolutely wonderful, and someone else will come away from it and think that, well, maybe it wasn't so great. Or two people can have the opportunity to meet an individual, and one person will come away thinking that person, that new individual, is a boon to their life experience, and someone else may think that that's someone that I'd rather not have in my circle of friends. So, you know, and how we do this in every moment becomes the determinative factor of how we experience every moment, and that experience becomes our life experience. And up till this point, it's also our story. And if we've been in that story field of where life happens to us and we don't have any choice, and we have all this, we have our laundry list of all the hurts and all the things that have been done against us, and we rehash those. And you know, you got to realize, in the moments that we rehash those things of our story, we in a sense relive those things. And as we relive those things, our mind gets right back in, our emotions get right back in, and our beliefs come right back to that. Whatever that unhappy experience was, I'm there. It's here. And it's right here and now. And see, right here and now is the only time that we really have. We don't have 5 minutes ago. It's been and gone. We don't have the future. It's on its way to us. All we have is this moment in time. But what a powerful moment it is. Oh, what we can do with it when we begin to realize that we can do with it. And so, you know, we have to do something. We have to decide that things are going to unfold in our life in a certain way. And one of the affirmations that I like to share with people is simply this. It starts out with a basic sentence that goes, I decide I shall have it, and it will become my reality. And then we begin to replace the it with various things. I decide I shall have health, and health becomes my reality. I decide I shall have happiness, and happiness becomes my reality. I decide I shall have love, and love becomes my reality. And you can add other things into that you may wish to experience in your life. And the beautiful thing is, as we begin to affirm that, and that's not something that we do once a day. It's not something that we do once a week. It's something that we do multiple times during the day. And it really is a powerful tool when we start our mornings with our affirmations. Matter of fact, for me, and I recommend this to people that wish to experience the type of life that I've been experiencing, is to start your day, that first hour of the day, and spend that time, make that sacred time. And that time is time that you do your affirmations, you do your prayer work, you do your spiritual reading, and maybe you have some inspirational CDs or videos that you can find online that are self-affirming, and spend that time quietly in that meditative state going through that, and it sets the tone for your entire day. You know, you'll find that as you begin to do that, you don't meet the day from oh my gosh, it's the alarm went off, I got to get up. You find that you meet the day with an expectation and almost an excitement. You know, I can hardly wait to get up and do it because I know that this good is going to happen to me immediately, every day when I get up, no matter what happens. But you got to make the time to do it. And the other time of the day is in the evening, right before you go to bed, and you do the same thing. And it makes the last thing you focus on before sleep, and oftentimes our subconscious mind during our sleep time will begin to work on things and help affirm those things in our life also. So those 2 times a day are very important, what you do. If you watch the 11 o'clock news and go to bed, what are you going to go to bed with on your mind? All the tragedy and all the terribleness that news is going to present. Because truth be told, news does not present good things, and particularly the 11 o'clock news at night. You get all the day's, violence and all the day's worries and all the day's stuff, and then you carry that with you when you go to bed. Why do you do that? You do that because you don't know any better, because you've lived this life, but now you do know better. And now you can make changes. And that's why I do the show, is so that when people take the time and they watch this and they begin to get the idea that, you know what, I can become the captain of my ship. I can be the master of my fate. I can do these things. And as you do, it's going to begin to change and unfold. It's not going to happen overnight, but it will happen if you commit to it. And the single most important thing is to understand that when you fall, when you slip, you don't put off getting back up on the horse, so to speak. You do it right away. You know, I know people that their whole focus on life is being prepared for the worst, and they go through life. Everything that happens, everything they encounter is always about preparing for the worst case event. Now, that's not to say that we shouldn't be prepared, but if that becomes your life focus, what kind of life are you going to live? You're going to live a life always worrying about the worst, always, envisioning the worst. And you know what? You're going to experience a lot of that too. And you don't need to. When you begin to look at your life as always being prepared for the best, always looking for the best, always seeing the best in everything you do, the best begins to unfold in your life. The good begins to be there, and it begins to be there in ways that you have no idea, innumerable ways that you've never thought of, and it just shows up. And when it shows up and you realize, boy, that's something that I never thought about, you can stop and say, wait a second. I may not have never thought about it, but I did open myself up to being accepting of the good coming my way, because good is always coming our way. If you believe that there's a divine principle that is the all that is the infinite love, the infinite source, the infinite supply of all that is, then whatever is coming your way comes ultimately from that source, and ultimately there's some good to be found in it. That was a lesson for me when I first came to New Thought, seeing the good in everything, because I had a mind that wanted to wander towards all that stuff. The stuff that we always got to be prepared against. The stuff that, we got to gird up our loins, so to speak, and maybe go to battle on. And to make that shift, seeing those things that I once thought were tough, seeing those things that I once thought were tragic, and begin to actively search for what good can be found in it. And that doesn't mean that we make little of those things. Tragedies happen, and we recognize that. But out of tragedies, so much good can come. There's a story about, it was the big tsunami that they had in Japan, I don't know, about 10, 15 years ago. And there's a village. There's a lot of villages that are built on the coastline, and a lot of these villages have these tsunami walls, and they're these big gates. And what they do is when the warnings come, they close these gates, and hopefully they will prevent damage to the villages and loss to life. And there was one village that in years earlier there was a mayor there, and when they built this wall, this gate, he insisted that they build it, I think it was like 30 feet higher than what they had. And people rebelled against it. He became very unpopular because of the cost, the time, and the labor. But he managed to convince them to build it. They paid for it. They built it. They built it. They got it done. And when this big tsunami hit, like I say, it was about 10 or 15 years ago, within 15 feet of that wall was a schoolyard that was untouched. Where other villages were wiped out because the tsunami was so big, this village survived, and it survived intact. And the reason being is that the man that had been the mayor, and he was dead by the time this came, but people went to his grave and they honored him. But when he was a little boy back in the 40s, he had experienced a huge tsunami as a kid. It was a great tragedy in his life. And so when he became the mayor of the town in this community, situated such that it was that tsunamis might happen, he took his experience of tragedy and he insisted that they build this wall. And thousands of lives were saved from it. Imagine that. And you can. And you can imagine that in things in your life. Each and every one of us can do that. And I'll see you when we come back. It's time for our second break. This is good. And I like what I'm doing. I hope you're liking it.
I'm Greg Steen, your host for the Truth for Seniors show. Glad you're joining us today, and coming to you from Central Valley Talk in the heart of Fresno. So every Wednesday at 2 you can find us, and we'll be here giving you the most up-to-date and accurate information possible, bringing you experts, as we've promised, from lots of different fields related to seniors, senior needs, the caregiver needs, and everything that goes with that. So if you're looking for the right information and timely information, this is the place to be.
When you need a dentist who has a passion for superior aesthetics and comfort, you need Dr. Christopher Wong with Cedar North Dental. Call 559-432-4948 or visit cedarnorthdental.com. Connect with Dr. Alan Hedberg. Watch Doctor Teach Me to Parent on CentralValleyTalk.com Saturdays at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Listen to The Psychology Report anytime at thepsychologyreport.buzzsprout.com. Visit booksbyhedberg.com and order a book for your personal growth. And join the conversation on twitter.com/Alan G. Hedberg.
CentralValleyTalk.com.
Welcome back. It's New Thought Talk. I am your host, Reverend Steve Walling, and we've been talking about the idea of having an expectation of good and seeing good unfold in our lives. But in this particular segment, what I want to talk about is some of those things that have a tendency to work against us, some of those things that show up in our life, and oftentimes when they show up, we're so invested, if you will, in what's going on that we don't realize what it is that we've done or what we're participating in. And those types of things are things like anger and fear and worry and anxiety and depression and a lot of other things, but those are like the big five, if you will. And it's very easy for us to get caught up in that. You know, our lives and our society tends to have an expectation that you're going to have times of depression and you're going to have times of worry and you're going to have times of fear and on and on and on. We run our tapes. And in truth, you might say we were designed as human beings to experience this. There's that part of our nervous system that's called the fear mechanism, or oftentimes it's commonly called the fight or flight mechanism. And it's that part within our brain that makes a determination on everything that we experience. Everything is filtered through that. What you see, think, what you hear, it all gets fed through this part of our brain that makes a determination whether it's safe or not safe. And it's really designed to protect us, which is a good thing. However, it was designed to protect us at a time when we weren't thinking conscious beings. And so it oftentimes protects us from things that we really should begin to be involved with and not run away from. And sometimes those things are responsibilities that we have to do. Sometimes they're things that will help promote us in our life experience, whether it's asking that someone for that special commitment to a relationship, but we're afraid because, and you can fill in whatever goes beyond the because, or we see in the world today in what's going on with all the political upheaval here in the United States, but you see it worldwide too. And people, they get so caught up in whatever their side is. And we have a natural tendency to have a side, our tribe, we belong to it, we promote it, we got to defend it. And the other guy, whoever the other guy is always the enemy. But you see, the other guy isn't our enemy, or the other woman isn't our enemy. We're all part of the same human family. We're all part of what God created. But we get into this because this fear mechanism within us tells us that if we don't prevail, if we don't overcome, if we don't beat them down, if we're not triumphant, then we're on the losing end of the stick. And one of our biggest fears is to be on the losing end of anything. And so we give in to the anger. The thing is, when we get angry, what are we doing? We're creating this emotion, this powerful emotion within us. And associated with anger is hatred. And associated with that is all sorts of stuff that happens in the world. But also associated with our anger is the creativeness that happens within us of a anger atmosphere, an atmosphere that maybe is filled with hatred. It was Aristotle that said the undisciplined life, or Socrates, I think it's Socrates that said the undisciplined life is I wrote it down here, is an insane life. The undisciplined life is an insane life. Think about that. When you give in to fear, when you give in to hatred, when you give in to anger, you're doing it from a very undisciplined state. When you begin to understand that, you begin to seek, as I said in the earlier segments, that there's good to be found in everything. So you're looking at the opposition, so to speak, whatever that might be. And instead of taking your stand, drawing your line in the sand and getting angry and going to a defensive posture, you begin to seek the good that's there. Now, that doesn't mean that you're going to acquiesce. It doesn't mean you're going to give in. But what it means is you're going to meet whoever that other is on terms that you understand and you can understand them with. And possibly from that point, if they take a like posture, you can come to a meeting of the minds. If they don't, you can still set your boundaries. You can still do the necessary things that you have to do. But you don't do them out of anger. You don't do them out of the insanity that goes along with it. You do them out of a loving consciousness that can set the foundation for a future reconciliation. What we see in the world today, I don't know how people are going to reconcile what's going on. But if you bother to watch the news, it's crazy. It's chaos. And I've talked to people that are so vested in this, and they're so angry. As a matter of fact, some of those people who I appreciated their friendship, I had to actually ask them not to be a part of my life, because it's nuts. And who wants to be part of that? Who wants to, things that happen to our body when we get into that. But it's not only the things that happen to our body, it's things that happen to our mind. In order to create a greater good for ourselves, to see a greater good, we've got to step away from all this chaos. We've got to go, you know what? It's time that we put this down. It was Jesus that said we're to love our neighbors as ourselves. And he didn't have a caveat with that. He didn't say except for. And that's one of the very fundamental truths in New Thought, in religious science, is seeing the unity, the unity, the family of all creation. There's one God from which all creation comes from, but all creation is that God expressing as itself, or principle, or first cause, or source, or however you choose to name whatever it is that you reflect on as the ultimate, beyond, absolute of all that is. And the reason why I put it that way is because there's some people that, through their life experience, they're still trying to get over certain inner beliefs that they've held regarding certain words. And to get beyond those words, sometimes we have to find another word for the concepts that we want to share and have an understanding with. So it doesn't make any difference whether you call God, God, or whether you call God principle or first cause. If you have an understanding of a universal omniscience, in other words, a universal wisdom, a universal omnipotence, and all power, not just all powerful, but all power anywhere, and an omnipresence, which is everywhere presence. We know from our astronomers that the universe is expanding. Well, if it's expanding, then it has a certain size that's growing, and there's something beyond that size that it's growing into. Well, all of that and all beyond that is still part of this universal intelligence that I believe and understand as God, but it also is that power and presence in the universe that's available to each and every one of us when we put it into practice in our life at the level that we accept and understand and do that, and that's something that we can each do. That's where the idea of spirituality as a verb comes in. That's where the idea of taking time in the morning each day and awakening to and then meeting the day on your terms. Own the day. Master the day. Be the captain of your day. And when the day's over, regardless of what's happened. And sometimes it can be a struggle in the day, but you go back and you debrief yourself, if you will, on the day. And in that debriefing, you look for all the things that happened during the day that you have to be grateful for. And it shifts your mind. The mind is an interesting thing. It will seek out that which we focus it on. And if we focus it on things to be angry about, if we focus it on things to be worried about, it will seek those things out. But if we focus it on things to be grateful for, if we focus it on good, it will also seek those things out. And we have a co-creator with us we call God or whatever, and it works through us and for us by working through us. And so as we begin to seek out things to be grateful for, more of those things come into our life. You know, one of the things that, it's a phrase that's commonly thrown around in New Thought and religious science, is this idea of the law of attraction. And the law of attraction, it is a universal principle, no doubt about it. But we got to be careful, and I bring this up only because of a conversation I had this last week where, there were some people that they're so vested in the idea of the law of attraction that they fail to realize that what this law of attraction really is, it's a corollary or a subset of a greater law, and that's the law of cause and effect. The law of cause and effect basically tells us that for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Okay, we get that. Let's put it in other terms. Everything has value and everything has price. And whenever we do something, we pay a price for that thing that we do. But if the value is equal to the price or greater, we count it as a greater good. But oftentimes we do things and the price we pay is greater than the value of the thing that we've done. Anger is one of those things that fits in that category. The price that we pay for the anger that we have, not only does it hurt our body, it hurts our relationship, it hurts our life as we create, but the love that we intentionally share in the world as a part of the price we pay as being a life experience pays dividends beyond our understanding. So that's kind of the difference. But if we focus on this law of attraction, we lose the vision of the other things that go along with it. The vision of anger and the price, the vision of love and the price, the vision of doing good, being good, expecting good. It's not that we're just attracting those things, but we're creating those things also. And oftentimes people working in this law of attraction thing, they get focused on, well, I'm going to attract, and it'll unfold in their life, no doubt about it. But if they're also bringing to that a lot of chaos, a lot of fear, oftentimes they'll get what they've wanted to attract for themselves, but then they live in the fear of losing it, or it comes with baggage that they don't necessarily want. Life has a very, very interesting way of always honoring this law of cause and effect. We can't get away from it. We can't get around it. But if we begin to look at it as a totality and not just as a very specific thing, we can begin to see that there are other things in our life where we experience them that maybe we don't want to necessarily address that as the product of the law of attraction, but rather the law of cause and effect, and that we can begin to make changes for positive good. Then the law of attraction will unfold in our life. But again, it's up to us. So the idea of how we start the day, yeah, there's a law of attraction effect to that, but there's also a cause and effect of that also. The law of attraction is part of it, but not only is it what we attract, but it's what we create within ourselves. It's not only how we bring the day to ourselves, but how we bring ourselves to the day. And if you begin to look at things in this manner, if you begin to look at life in this manner, it's incredibly powerful. There is a universal principle that, like I said earlier, that's available to us, but it's only available to us when we put our demand upon it. It's just nothing more than pure potential and pure possibility up until that point. But when we begin to put our demand upon it, and our demand is our statement that we are going to experience good, we accept good, and that's our reality, is good. We put that good demand upon the universe responds in kind, the principle responds in kind. It cannot help but do that, always. Even if life comes at us the speed of life. don't forget, God is always there. Spirit's always there. Universal principle is always there. You are never alone. And if you're never alone, no matter what life brings, there's always a greater possibility, a greater potential to get through, around, and transcend whatever's going on. But it's in this moment, right here, right now. It's in this time when we have the power to utilize that which is ever available to us. We can't go back and change the past. Now, we can prepare for the future, no doubt about it. Like the story of the mayor in the town in Japan, he prepared for that. But we don't live our entire life experience in fear of what's going to happen, even though we've done the preparation. We see the good of what we've done and we move on, and we look to create even greater good in our life. I'm going to break here, and we're going to go to our final segment. I've shared some things with you. I hope that I've made sense. And when we come back, we'll wrap it up, and I'll see you on the other side.
See more original artwork by Francisco Rodriguez on Instagram at Francisco_illustrations and at the Fresno Art Hub at 2024 North Van Ness Boulevard.
Gained a lot, learned a lot, and got a lot of love. If it weren't for the knowledge that I had gained from the classes at PCC, I probably wouldn't be the mom I am today. There it goes.
I would love you to meet my son Aaron. My situation was very difficult. I didn't know how my life was going to turn out.
We graduated in June 2010 and we got married in July. And through family, the Pregnancy Care Center changed our lives.
The Pregnancy Care Center was a huge vital part in helping me walk through that pregnancy, in educating me and loving on me during that time.
Watch Mike and Athena live on CentralValleyTalk.com starting at 3 o'clock.
Every Wednesday, and also watch us on television on channel 33.2 at 3 o'clock. And at 11 p.m., watch us on 43.5 and Comcast 378.
Woo! Help build the Reedley College Center for Fine and Performing Arts by making a donation at sccd.edu/donate.
This segment is brought to you by Mike Briggs Properties. The recession's over. It's now safe to sell your home. Call Mike Briggs Properties.
CentralValleyTalk.com.
Welcome back to New Thought Talk. I am your host, the Reverend Steve Walling, and in this last segment, I want to open up with one, an idea, and then two, I want to read you something from the Science of Mind book. So it's when we learn how to think. It's when we learn how to think is when we learn how to live. And that's a powerful statement when we understand that our thoughts are really the controlling factors in our life experience. And I want to read this to you. This is from Ernest Holmes, and he says, "Never limit your view of life to any past experience. The possibility of life is inherent within the capacity to imagine what life is, backed by the power to produce this imagery or divine imagination. It is not a question of failing or succeeding. It is simply a question of sticking to an idea until it becomes a tangible reality. The illusion is that the way we look at things, the illusion is the way we look at things. We have looked at poverty, degradation, and misery until they have assumed gigantic proportions. We've looked at chaos in our society and oftentimes in our life until they've assumed overwhelming proportions. Think about that. We now must look at harmony, at happiness, plenty, prosperity, peace, right action until they appear. We must look at it. It's not for us to go out and tell the world how the world has to change for us to be happy in the world. I mean, that's been tried for thousands and thousands of years, and it's failed miserably. We cannot tell others how to be happy for us, how to make us happy, what they've got to do. Because when we do, we're imposing our will, our thoughts, our beliefs on other people. And if you paid much attention to what's going on in the world today, there's a lot of that still going on out there. But what we can do, and this is the most amazing thing, what we can do is we can look within ourselves and begin to create change there. We begin to create change by letting go of the fear, letting go of the worry, seeking to think in what we call a right way. And being in a right way doesn't mean that it's our particular way. In a right way means in a way that puts us in harmony with life. You know, if we're allowing our thoughts to be in disharmony with life, if we're allowing our thoughts to be anger thoughts, if we're allowing our thoughts to be worry thoughts and all the rest of that we talked about today, that's not thinking rightly. That's bringing us back to that chaotic, insane life. To think rightly is to see the good in all that is, to see the good in us, to know that no matter what we're seeing physically in our reality right here, right now, that there's a greater good behind it, however you want to define that greater good. To see your neighbor, even if they're problematic of sorts, to see them still as a creation of divine principle or divine spirit or God. And again, maybe we have to put up boundaries, but even in the putting up of boundaries, we still hold that person in a consciousness of goodness and godness, and we see them in that light. And as we do that, we change. We change how we interact with life, but we also change how we see life demonstrate for us. And that doesn't mean that challenges aren't going to come. Yes, challenges are going to come. But it does mean that we're going to meet those challenges differently. We're not going to meet those challenges from a position of fear or worry or inadequacy or limitation or poverty or whatever else you may want to put behind that, anger. But we meet life on its own terms. You know, the nature of thing is the essential quality of that thing, and the nature of life is to live. And so as we are living beings, the nature of our life experience is to live that life experience and to live it maximally. And when we fail to live it maximally, generally we find that we become unhappy or there's ill effects that we experience. You know, just look at the physical body that fails to exercise and to seek out proper nutrition. We begin to see things happen. Doctors' offices are full of people that have made those kind of failures in their life. And for most all of them, not all of them, but for most all of them, it's not too late to make a change. And when we live a life that we've been swimming in our moat around our story, that's been our whole life experience, and it's never gotten any better. It's because all it is a circle. We go round and round and round and round, and we still are protecting our story, and we still have our story to be there. And we decide to blow up that moat. We decide to take the plunge, to take the risk, to stretch, to move, to go beyond where we've been and to see a greater good and to move into that river of life as an adventure, to move onward, to see life as a journey and spirituality is our journey through that journey of life, and to know that we can be the creative factor in our lives. It's a powerful thing. I see this unfold in people's lives all the time. It's amazing, and it can unfold in your life. You're only a single, simple thought away from an entire life change. You just have to make the decision to do it, and then follow through with action. You can't say, I want to have happiness in my life, and go around complaining about people. You have to follow through with the action of putting your complaints on a shelf. That is a behavior that I no longer have to participate in. And there's a book out there called The Complaint-Free World. I forgot who the author is off the top of my head. But if you find the book, you can also find that they have a whole system in that book on how to rid your life of complaints and complaining. And the amazing things that happen to people when they do that. It's a 21-day workshop, self-workshop, if you will, of not complaining. Now, it may take you longer than 21 days to get through it, no doubt. You have to get the book, though. But it will change your life if you do that. I've known people who have done it. I've done it. And it is life-changing. You know, I do these shows, and I share new thought. I share principles because it's my belief that the people that take the time to watch this, whether they choose to believe as I believe spiritually is not important. But if you take the time to put into practice some of the things that we talk about in each of these shows, the idea of taking spiritual time in the morning and the evening and filling it with however you practice your spirituality, that's a tool that you can use. I didn't talk so much today about meditation, but putting a meditative practice in your day-to-day life experience is a powerful tool. Using affirmations in your life, using them throughout the day. Don't have 50 million affirmations that you're going to do when you first start. Have a handful, 5, maybe no more than 10, and you read those through maybe 100 times a day at various times during the day. And when you first read them, if there are things that you're looking to experience that you've not experienced in your life, it may feel a little funny. It may feel a little difficult, but you keep doing it. And as you keep doing it, things will begin to change, and you'll see things happen. It's amazing. It changes life. So, these are some of the things, and over time we talk about more. And I hope you come back and watch us as we go through our show. Like I said at the beginning of the show, we hold our Sunday services here in Fresno in the Tower District. It's at 1470 North Van Ness. That's in a little theater up there called the Soap Company Theater. And we have really enjoyed our time there with the group, and they do a lot of other good things in the Fresno community. But you can see us there on Sunday at 10 o'clock for meditation, and at 10:30 for our lesson. And then we have time afterwards where we, it's kind of a meet and greet, and we have a little coffee and some water and various other things and snacks and so on. And it's also a time, though, that when you come, if you have issues in your life that you would like to have special prayer for, you can talk to me about those times. We can put you on a prayer list. There are things that are more powerful than you are that can unfold in your life to create a greater good, and we make those available to you when you show up or when you contact me. And of course, you can always seek us out to help support our ministry. You can email me through our email, which is madeirasac@gmail.com, or various, you can get us through the show here, whatever. But if you want to support us, we can make that also available to you for you to be able to do that, because these messages are powerful and they are life-changing. I'm glad you've been with us this week, and I hope you take time. And we have a Facebook page, New Thought Talk with Rev Steve. You can go back, and there's several years worth of shows there, and I'm keep them up so that people still look at some of the ones when we first got started and tell me how powerful they have been in their lives and how their lives have been changed. So I thank you for being with us this week, and I'll see you again when I come back. And know that as you go through the week, that the light of God surrounds you. Know that, and the love of God enfolds you. The power of God protects you, and the presence of God watches over you. Truly, wherever you are, God is there. All is well. Have a great week, my friends. I'll see you when I come back.
The Narrow Gauge Inn is your home away from home, with 26 rooms offering majestic mountain views, private decks, and an atmosphere of true relaxation. Located just 4 miles from the south entrance to Yosemite National Park, the Narrow Gauge Inn is the perfect base for all your Yosemite adventures. Make your reservation now at narrowgaugeinn.com or call 559-683-7720.
We've been thinking about this for a while on how we can really match up economic development and workforce development.
In order to have successful businesses, the businesses needed a successful workforce. And so the EDC and the DSS partnered together to put together training programs that are tailored to specific industries.
We need to have our clients be private sector focused, private sector ready, and better to learn that from the private sector than from the government.
This was a different idea, and this intrigued me. I've got 3 guys out in the field working, no problem at all with them. Very good kids. I enjoy hiring people that need a second chance. The employees that work for us are our most important asset. That's why I have to have good employees. We need to all work together and try to figure out on how to do this, and that's why I like the program.
CentralValleyTalk.com